pilot episode of the Alt Pulse podcast.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Laura, and we're here to talk to you about our experiences with music in the rock, alternative and metal scene.
And this episode we're going to discuss our Summer of Music festivals and give you a full rundown.
So we'll be trying to post a new podcast each month, and as we sort of find our feet in the podcast world, we'll be talking about more topics, whether that's about the news, upcoming gigs and festivals we've got going on, and the latest album releases. So, our summer of festivals started with Slam Dunk, which was all the way back in May.
Oh, that seemed like such a long time ago.
It really does.
And so if we forget anything, if anything slips our mind, then I apologise. But this is from pure recollection of the days that we've spent at all these festivals over the summer. So we've kind of subdivided these into kind of categories, I would say.
Yeah, and we're going to be covering each of these sort of topics of discussion in each festival.
Yeah, we're going to try and not waffle on. We're going to try and keep it as concise as possible, but I can't promise that I won't go off on some random tangent, you know.
But obviously we've got vlogs for all three of these festivals on the channel, so make sure you go and check them out.
You can check them out in the description below.
Yes.
So, yeah, we'll start off with Slam Dunk Festival. We went to Slam Dunk South in Hatfield in Hertfordshire, and yeah, I think overall pretty good experience, really. We'll just get into the nitty-gritty of it. So, commute/parking. Personally, I thought it was fine. We had hardly any issues. It was fun having Casey and Jada in the car with us.
Yeah,
as well.
that definitely made the car drive better. It's always nice when you've got company in the car.
And it's not that long a commute for us anyway, really.
No, not really. Without doxing where we are, it really doesn't take that long at all, really, to get to Slam Dunk South. It's definitely easier to get to that than North.
I guess it makes it our local festival, really.
Kind of, yeah.
In a way, you know.
Yeah.
But no issues at all. Satnam, I think, got us on the right way.
Yeah, it was slap bang. And I mean, if anyone obviously did go to Slam Dunk in 2023, which I did, there was certainly quite a few issues that they had to iron out, and the commuting and parking was a massive one, because in the previous year, people were being sent to the wrong place, and there was issues of turning up on the day and people hadn't paid for parking, and it was a bit of a fiasco. So this year, they really had to sort of get that right, and I think they did.
We'll go into it a bit more, but there was a whole plethora of issues that I think they needed to sort out from last year, and for the most part, I think they did.
Yes, definitely.
Which is a good start, you know. And yeah, I think compared to the last Slam Dunk I went to with you, commute parking was better. There wasn't much queuing involved, you know. Mm-hmm. It was last year, wasn't it? The last one I went to.
I think it was. Obviously, we lose track of time.
We go so much.
I mean, this year's Slam Dunk was my 5th Slam Dunk on the trot since 2019. So
it all kind of merges.
It all kind of sometimes merges together.
Right. Then we've got security/bag checks. Me personally didn't seem to have an issue with that at
absolutely.
all. All the security on the day, they all kind of did their job. I remember after one step closer, I asked for water. He obliged straight away. So they were keeping everyone hydrated in that sun. Yeah,
it was a warm Slam Dunk.
It was
this
a very
year.
warm day, as far as I can recall. Yeah.
But obviously, again, I'm going to go back to 23 being sort of a guideline, if you like. In 23, the security checks were very, very, very flexi/non-existent.
Quite lax, yeah.
Yeah, like literally last year, I think I said it in the vlog, anyone could have brought anything in last year.
That's not what you
got
want,
away
really.
with it.
You want a modicum of accountability when it comes to security, you know?
Yeah.
So, non-music things. I mean, we didn't really... For a one-day festival, it's hard to have any kind of non-music things happening.
Yeah.
There was a signing tent. We didn't go.
No, I've done it in previous years.
Was that when you met Nova Twins?
I met Nova Twins in the signing tent that year. Yeah, and it was quite good.
We didn't really see the signing tent either.
No, it was kind of in a bit of an awkward position, which we'll kind of get to as we talk about more about the arena and stuff like that for this year. But the year that I did the signing tent, it was within the arena sort of grounds, if you like. Whereas this year, I believe it was sort of in the holding pen area, if you like. If anyone's been to Slam Dunk before, you'll kind of know what I'm talking about. But anyone who doesn't, as soon as you've got your festival wristband at South anyway, you're sort of led into this sort of holding area where there's like the merch stand. There's a couple of food stalls, a couple of portaloos, and they kind of keep you there before the gates officially open. And that's where the signing tent was this year. So it was quite difficult for some people to find it. But as far as I'm aware, obviously, like I say, we didn't do it, but the girls did. And I know that they didn't really have any problems when it came to going to the signing tent. And they had a really good time there. I believe it was Boys Like Girls.
Boys Like
that
Girls,
they met.
yeah.
So, yeah, as far as I'm aware from their sort of perspective and talking to them, obviously, about the festival and stuff, they enjoyed that. So...
Yeah, but boys don't like girls, though, do they? They just like cars and money.
They like cars and money. I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, God, it's lowbrow. This is the sort of humour you'll get with this podcast.
Absolutely.
And there was obviously the big monster, not literally the monster trucks,
No.
but trucks which had people delivering monsters. And as we go into food, toilets, hygiene, I actually got a free can of Monster on the way in.
Yes, I think a lot of people appreciated that this year.
Yeah, you know, I'm not an energy drinks fan though, however, so I didn't like it at all. I was never one of those guys back in my youth when I went to school where I'd get like £1 and buy like a can of Rockstar or Red Bull on the way to school. I was never one of those people. The only time I ever had energy drinks was when I was at uni and I was on the Jaeger bombs. But even then, I've kind of gone off those massively since I left uni.
Yeah, I think everyone enjoyed that for sure. I think some people would probably argue for it to come back next year.
Imagine.
On...
Good luck to him, but I'm probably not going to... I mean, it didn't help me with the pit I was in for Guilt Trip.
Yeah.
I was just knackered after it, and I thought having that little boost would help me out, but it didn't.
No.
I don't know what that is.
You kind of hit
I don't know
crash.
if that's a slight on Guilt Trip or a slight on Monster, but there you go. I only, as far as I can recall, I only had one food item.
Yeah,
because it was only a single day, you know, and we'd already had a massive breakfast.
Yes, as you guys may have again seen in the vlog, we did have massive patented breakfast.
My patented bacon and eggs and fry up food of all descriptions. I believe it was just chicken and chips. It was like, as far as I can recall, it was like around the.
I think it was a tenner,
wasn't it?
Yeah, I had pizza.
£13. But it was delivered incredibly quickly, hardly any queuing, which was definitely a marked improvement over last year.
Yeah, again, this was something that Slam Dunk had to sort of come out and say that they're looking to improve.
Which
over
they did.
23.
In fairness to them, they
yeah,
absolutely
it was
did.
much better. It's also worth noting as well that the water points were a lot better this year as well, compared to 23.
There was more of them, wasn't there, water points?
Yes, there was a couple more. Yeah. I think, again, specifically for South, I think they mentioned that due to how the water supply is, they can only have so many.
I think a few people were going a bit doolah-lally in the heat last year.
Yeah, I don't think the heat really helped. I don't think it helps anyone, really.
But this year it was equally as hot, if not hotter, than last year, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
And I feel like, personally, there was plenty of water points around. I don't think there was any queues really for any of them as I was just wandering around.
Not really. And again, going back to last year, the queues were horrific. Like, I remember last year I had about an hour's gap to get food before Kids in Glass Houses. And I actually almost missed the start of Kids in Glass Houses because it took that long to get food. I
want to say I queued for about 45 minutes for my noodles.
Yeah, whereas this year the queues were kind of non-existent. I don't know, obviously we could talk about maybe the ins and outs of being like, oh, well, 24 wasn't a sellout, but 23 was. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
They definitely oversold it last year,
yeah.
100%. They claim they didn't, but... it was just rammed.
It definitely.
Whereas this year it wasn't so rammed. It didn't feel like that. Just toilets quickly.
Yeah, just quickly talking about the toilets because I mean it's a festival. What do you expect? But I'd say out of the 3 festivals that we're going to talk about, I think the toilets were the worst at Slam Dunk.
Really?
Not by much. Yeah, not by much. But yeah, I think I don't know if Slam Dunk have sort of the capacity of like toilet cleaners like they do at Trees or Download, but. Yeah, I think that they could be slightly better at Slam Dunk, but
what was it? Just lack of
it was
utilities.
I think it was kind of the lack of utilities, and I did see some sort of people complaining on the Facebook group as well about the toilet situation again.
To be fair, I only used the urinals. I just thought they were just bog standard festival urinals, really.
Yeah.
You know, bit of a whiff. And a lot of lads sitting around with their willies out and beers on top of the johns, you know, and it was just what it was. I don't really recall. I think we'll get on to bands, right? But I
Yeah.
think the fact that there wasn't that many bands this year that I really was asked to see
Yeah.
kind of helped in the queuing department. You've got to really be tactical when it comes to timing
Yeah.
for losing and stuff.
Yeah, especially if you've never been to a festival before.
But weather, I mean, absolutely no complaints about the weather
Yeah.
whatsoever. Decent amount of shade, I thought, especially under that big tree near the, what was it, the reggae stage. I can't exactly remember the name
The
of it.
Monster Energy stage it was this year.
That's
right, where
yeah.
all the ska bands were playing. Yeah, it was pretty much optimal weather for me for a festival. You know, the sun was out, it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, but you did get sunburn.
I did. I ended up being the now famous human squashy that
Yes.
we've come to expect. Every time I go to an outdoor event, like with Corn just recently, I had it.
Yeah. It's
Hashtag
crazy.
human squashy.
Yes.
No complaints really at all. So there is stuff to complain, however, for me about merch, I would say.
Yeah.
It could be improved in terms of the positioning, in terms of, you know, the sorts of stuff they retail at specific merch points. For example, when I went into the arena, my first port of call was merch, specifically merch from bands that are a little bit lowlier on the bill, One Step Closer, Guilt Trip. Turned immediately left, there was a merch stall near the main stand. I was like, right, great, let's have it. They literally only had merch for the main stage bands there. And I had to basically backtrack, go all the way back out into the holding pen area, which you mentioned, and then get in the queue for that, which was astronomical.
Yeah.
And if I'd have known that the merch tent outside was the only merch tent that was catering for those lowlier bands, then I probably would have gotten the queue a lot earlier and saved myself a lot of hassle. Which meant I did miss the start of As Everything Unfolds as well due to that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a nitpick, you know.
Yeah.
But I do think if you could kind of do a more widespread of merch, not just catering to the bands that are playing on the main stage.
Yeah.
Or maybe even just more merch stalls. I think,
Well,
as far as I can recall, they had the tent in the holding pen, they had the one near the main stage, and then they had one over near the stage that holding absence, Funeral for a Friend and Ghost in Cyber on.
I don't think they had that though this year.
Well, there was like only for me. There
were only
from what
three.
I saw, there was only 3
Yeah,
merch
there
tents.
were only 3 merch tents. So
I don't think that's I really don't think that's enough. That's weird.
It could be down to staffing costs though for that. Because
I was queuing outside for quite some time. I would say, that caused me to miss As Everything Evolves.
well, you almost missed them completely.
No, well, almost. And by the way, we should say at the time of recording, we did find out that their drummer recently passed away.
Yeah.
So
Massive shout out to
condolences to them, and I hope that they get through it.
Yeah. But yeah, back to the merch tent. I did want to pick up because I can understand why they moved the merch tent to the holding pen this year. Because all previous years that I've been, it has been sort of in the middle of the whole festival grounds. And the queues used to cut through like a main sort of fire exit path.
Yeah, so would that have cut everyone off that was trying to get to the stage?
And when you think about last year with all the merch queues, the food queues, it really wasn't ideal to have the merch tent there. So this year they moved it into the holding pen area, and they had 2 merch tents in that section. They had one which was the proper tent where all the smaller bands were, and then they had the other sort of stall which had just Slam Dunk specific merch, so nothing from main stage bands. And then as you came in, there was a merch stand right near main stage which just kind of covered that. I think what could be better in terms of this is probably better signage. Like, in terms of, okay, you can get this merch from here, get this merch from there.
Agreed, yeah. Maybe the problem isn't lack of. Maybe it's just there needs to be better signage saying, you can only get main stage band merch there.
Yeah.
On entrance, maybe in particular, if they could say, right, here's your merch tent. This is for the bands that are lower down on the bill, on the lower stages.
Yeah.
Because I was queuing for ages to try and get One Step Closer merch, only to find that they didn't even have that, to be fair. And I remember asking the guy, I bought Guilt Trip merch actually, and their merch guy, I was asking him, I was like, do you happen to know if they've got any One Step Closer merch in there? And he was like, no, well, they don't really do merch.
But then obviously
I'm kind
that's
of like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Maybe
Yeah.
they were late, or I don't
well,
know.
that kind of stuff also doesn't just fall onto the Slam Dunk team. That
No, of
falls
course not.
onto
That falls onto the band's responsibilities as well. But
because again, going back to last year when there was all the traffic issues, I remember that there was no Vukovi merch first thing, and I had to get my merch for Vukovi later on in the day.
maybe they could put like a sign up saying no one step closer merch or something outside. Save you the aggro of going all the way in the queue. Luckily, obviously, Guilt Trip did have merch there, so I got myself a nice little copy of Severance, their debut album, which is bloody amazing, and a shirt as well. You didn't pick up any merch?
No, for once I didn't pick up merch at Slam Dunk. I normally do. I didn't bother this year because we had Download So Close coming up after that.
And we want to save a bit of dosh for that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's enough merch talk. So let's talk about, like, the sort of overall vibes
The
and
people.
the people there.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like, with Slam Dunk, I didn't really have any issues.
No.
From what I
that's
recall.
when I first met the lads from the Ragamuffins. Specifically Dan and I don't think James was there, but Alex was there.
Yeah, I think James was at a different stage.
This
when
was
you
just
told me.
after One Step Closer, I believe, and yeah, they could not have been nicer. A random bloke kind of walking up to them, going, "Oh, excuse me, I really like your podcast." But they were like, "Yeah, no, nice to meet you, dude. Here's a sticker." So we got a sticker. No, it's not. They're good lads. They're really, really good lads. I hope we can bump into them at more festivals down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, we met. You know, obviously we had Casey and Jade there. I think they enjoyed it themselves.
They definitely enjoyed it. Obviously, they sort of saw different bands to what we did.
So we weren't really hanging around with them.
But that was like that's the beauty of sort of like these one day festivals or just festivals in general. Is like even if you're going with a group of people, everyone can see every band that they want to. You know, you're not sort of forced to tag along with anyone if you don't want to.
And we had Alex and his missus there. That was for the Interrupters. That they were
That's
fun
true.
to hang out with always. But we bumped into Meg as well.
Yes.
At one point.
We saw Mallory Knox with Meg.
This is just the thing. You come. The more festivals you do, the more people you'll come to know and I get to hang out with. And sometimes it's a mere sort of like a feather in the wind, just passing, going, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" The one thing I did notice this year, like lots of really young people at Slam. There was particularly, I think there was like pretty much a newborn there, right?
Was it the
Skints?
Yeah, it was the Skints. Well, that's the thing as well with like Slam Dunk and Trees, which we're going to talk about later. Those sorts of festivals are really catered towards either, you know, people with a young family or first time goers because it's a perfect opportunity to sort of get the festival vibe without the camping.
Well, yeah, I mean,
especially
and
with
that's why
Mondays.
I put in my notes here. It could be a good shout for your first festival experience because there are two. There's South and North.
Yeah. Obviously, people. I went just after they scrapped the Midlands one, but a lot of people would love the Midlands one.
I kind of wish
back.
I'd have gone to that one. To be fair, like I only found out first about the one that was held in Leeds, and it was first held in Leeds City Centre.
Yeah, that's right. Before they moved them to bigger grounds.
And Leeds did have some problems this year with the weather and.
Yeah, we should probably sort of backtrack a little bit about the weather. Obviously, as we're saying, we went to South. We have no experience of North apart from secondary experience, so. Yeah, we know that North had a few issues. There was advisories for access customers to not even turn up to the grounds due to the sort of mud and the rain. But no, from what I've seen from like the Slam Dunk Facebook page, I think people that did go to North still had a great time.
They still had a good time regardless. So that was good. You know, that shows, you know, it's a good crowd that kind of goes to these places.
There's definitely like, because I always see sort of posts from like people who've gone to like every Slam Dunk or, you know, a high number of Slam Dunks. And there's definitely sort of like a loyal following for Slam Dunk.
And I like that, you know. I think as well, I enjoyed the vibes a lot more than I enjoyed the vibes of the year before.
Yeah.
The year before, nearer the end in particular, when like Offspring were on, I was really not enjoying myself, and I was getting really aggravated with like people that were in front of us because they were basically these two lads in front of us in Offspring t-shirts, no less. So you'd think they were there to see the band, were just, you know, barking their heads off at each other and smoking right in front of us. And you know, it's like kind of we could have moved, I guess, you know, to make things easier for us, but still, that really put me out. That there's people that just were there not to watch the music or enjoy the vibes, but just to chat at each other, you know. And there was a bit of odd goings. There was a bloke who was literally just standing up, just pissing, like, just in full view of everyone, not even going over to the bushes.
I actually don't remember that, but...
Oh, I do. It's burned in my brain.
I do not remember that.
Nothing like that this year. Everyone was so cordial, everyone was great, and it was nice to meet up with the Ragamuffins for the first time. So the arena itself, I thought was well spread out, like you insinuated earlier. The walking aspect of it was fine, could get to every stage in plenty of time.
Yeah, didn't really have any issues. I think in terms of like the stage layout, it was very similar to 23.
It was a bit different though, wasn't it? They scrapped the whole one end of the stage. What was it? Key Club?
Yeah, so I believe
they used to split Key Club in two.
Yeah, so basically,
or was it Kerrang?
No, it was the Key Club stage.
Yeah.
So the first time that I went to Slam Dunk, they had two stages sort of side by side, and I think it was the Key Club stage because it's where I saw Milk Teeth at that time. And what they did was they'd have one band start on the left side, and then they'd have them on the right side, like the following band. So you were sort of like a pendulum between two things. And they kind of did that. I think the last time that they really did that was in 22. And instead of it being side to side, it was back to front. So,
yeah. So that was the low stage, right? As I call it. You saw low,
but that was
switched immediately over.
That was in 21 though.
Yeah, I think that was the last time we went as well though, with Laura and Jamie, right?
No, that was 23. They scrapped the back-to-back thing, I think, in 23. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, because I seem to recall, like, 4 Year Strong were playing in a tent.
They were.
And I'm pretty sure they...
Did they have someone sound-checking behind them?
Someone was either sound-checking behind them or they just finished their set.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, I think they...
It probably was.
Up to very recently, they did a thing where it was going back and forth, but they've scrapped all that now.
Yeah, because they had that, like, loads of people were mentioning, actually, now that you recall, like, it's... on the poster, they had less stages this year, technically. Normally, they have 6 stage, like, main sort of groups of bands, whereas only this year they had 5. But
yeah, do you think the downsizing kind of did it good? You know,
I think so. Obviously, you know, if we're going to talk about our favourite bands and highlights and stuff, and I believe I mentioned it in the vlog, like, this year's lineup for me wasn't the strongest that I've seen.
No,
but the overall vibes sort of made up for that, and there were still bands that I really wanted to check out. So
yeah, there was a good selection, kind of amalgamation of. I mean, we might as well get into our band highlights now because that's our next topic. But there was a good amalgamation of like pop punk, hardcore, bit of metal in there. There was some kind of bedroom pop stuff. There was ska.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
There was ska. Punk bands, you know.
Yeah, because sort of just looking back at the lineup, obviously a lot of this, especially I'm going to sort of point out the Kerrang stage mainly. Like, I only went there a few times during the day, but like early on in the day, you've got sort of up and coming bedroom pop bands, as you call it.
Yeah.
But shout out, to be fair, I'm going to shout out Rory. I didn't see them. But Rory did win an award at the Heavy Music Awards for, like, Best Newcomer. So they're clearly doing something right. But yeah, like, going back to sort of the bands that were my highlights, I'll stick with the Kerrang stage. But Pale Waves, I was so excited to see Pale Waves. They were definitely a left field booking this year for me.
Do you think?
Yeah, Pale Waves are more suited towards, like,
sort
of the tram lines, Reading Leeds.
Reading Leeds type band.
Yeah.
But I feel like their brand of kind of... It's their music's quite 80s, but it's also got that kind of pop punk Avril.
Yeah, it's got elements of it.
You know?
But I loved Pale Waves. They were definitely one of my
She's My Religion could easily be like an Avril tune from like the early 2000s, for example.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And then
they were great, that was my first time ever seeing them, and I know you've banged on about them for years and years.
I have, and I've been meaning to see them for years and years, so actually seeing them for the first time at Slam Dunk was really cool.
I thought they sounded fantastic. I thought the lead singer, she could sing her heart out, you know.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Absolutely.
And I'm hoping to see them on their tour, but it all depends on timings and stuff. So yeah, I'll talk about As Everything Unfolds again. Obviously, we briefly mentioned them earlier on in this section of the podcast, but this was my second time seeing them this year, fourth time overall. So yeah, as everyone unfolds, they're a fantastic band. Fell in love with them over COVID. On the Inside is an absolute bop.
Yeah, oh yes.
And it was a great way to start the day. I got pretty close to barrier for
Ultraviolet as well. That's a great tune.
Yeah, I mean that album as a whole.
Yeah, there's just the album overall is well, both their albums, I should say.
Yeah, both their albums are really good.
And yeah, that was. I would say that was probably one of my most enjoyable pits of the day.
Yeah, definitely.
Once I got in, you know, everyone was like well up for it and having fun. They obviously they were like the first band of the day, so everyone had that release of energy.
Yeah, definitely.
Really, really cool.
Yeah, and then I guess my final sort of shout out is the Interrupters. They were the headliners for the Monster Stage, and the Interrupters don't come over very often, so I had to see them. And this was my third time seeing the Interrupters, and again, hopefully not the last.
This is my third time seeing them as well. I saw them at Download, I believe, in 2018, and I saw them at their own gig, actually, as a matter of fact, at Kentish Town Forum.
Yeah.
With Alex, who you would have seen in the Green Day vlog. That they're just continually just have the catchiest tunes, have the best vibes. Amy is such a super woman of a front man.
Yeah.
You know, like Jesse and all his brothers are just so charismatic and funny. They've got really funny background as well.
They for me they sort of fill the No Doubt void. Like obviously No Doubt don't really.
You know what?
Make
I never really considered them and No Doubt kind of being in that same wavelength. But now you mention
they definitely are.
They're more of a kind of, I'd say they're more punky than
they
No
are
Doubt.
more punkier,
They've got a bit of a Rancid is obviously one of their big influences, and they've done a song with Tim Armstrong from Rancid. They've collaborated with Billy Joe Armstrong, I'm pretty sure.
They've collaborated with the Skints before as well.
The Skints. They fit well within that kind of ska punk bracket. All their songs are just so catchy though.
Yeah.
It's like Friend Like Me and She's Kerosene, Raised by Wolves. They honestly listen to the go off and listen to the Interrupters, even if it's only a couple of tunes. You were trying to get Casey and Jay to listen.
Yeah,
to them,
I mean they weren't going to see them anyway because Yumi at Six were on at the same time.
And you love Yumi at Six.
Yeah, I do really like Yumi at Six as well. But
you've got a Yumi at Six tattoo on your wrist. So that shows you how much she loves Yumi at Six.
Yeah,
but it also shows you how much you love the Interrupters, that you would be willing to see them.
Yeah, well, the thing is obviously, you know, at the time of going to Slam Dunk, we knew that this was going to be the final festival appearance of Yumi at Six. And we did obviously catch the final few songs of their set, but you know, they were announcing a tour, and we are going on that tour. So
you are. I'm all right.
Yeah, I was going to say Rob's not going, but you can expect a vlog about the final ever Yumi at Six show, because we do have tickets for that, as in me, Casey, and Jade, and we've got our friend coming along as well who will be there.
I don't mind Yumi at Six, you know. Josh Franceschi, big gooner.
I was going to say he's an Arsenal fan, so you've got
I've always got a soft spot for frontmen who are Arsenal fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely more your vibe than my vibe, I would say. But the Interrupters, I love the Interrupters, and I think they really made a really good impression.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a long time. I said this in the vlog as well. I think it's been a long time coming for them to headline the sort of ska punk stage. The first time I saw the Interrupters was in 22, and they were just before the Dropkick Murphys on Main, because
that's a hell of a lineup there.
Yeah, it was literally the Interrupters into the Dropkick Murphys into Sum 41.
There probably wasn't a sober person there.
Probably not. I was, because I was driving that day.
Well, there you go. You were the only sober person.
Yeah. But no, it was just great to see the Interrupters get that recognition. It's probably going to be a couple years before we see them at Slam Dunk again.
Was that the year that you went directly after us
in 22?
Liam?
Yeah.
Oh, so we
that's
saw
a
Liam,
whole story.
That's a whole nother story in itself. But very briefly, we saw Liam Gallagher at Nebworth the day before, and we didn't get out the car park of that place until 3 a.m.
Yeah, well, we didn't.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, we didn't get back to Rob's parents until like 3:45 in the morning.
It was
or
absolutely
ridiculous.
And then you, in all your wisdom, decided to still go to Slam Dunk.
I still went to Slam Dunk. I had about 4 hours sleep minimum.
But, you know, that's nothing compared to Download, which is what we'll get to.
Oh, yeah. So are there any other bands that we haven't spoken about?
Well, I haven't really spoken about my bands, but I'll go through them quickly. One Step Closer, obviously brilliant. Got so close to the barrier, as you would have seen in the vlog. they're fantastic. I really hope they go places in the future. Great melodic hardcore. Ghost Inside, I'd never seen. I'd follow their career for a hell of a long time. They were just as everything I hoped, And shout out to their drummer as well, who's only got one leg because he lost one in that infamous bus accident they had a few years back. The fact they've stood by him, and kept, and he got such a brilliant ovation when he came out and when he left the stage, which is fantastic to see. Also, shout out to John Vigil, who is on Twitch and I've been talking back and forth to him a few times about Slam Dunk. He's a good lad. Guilt Trip, they're obviously always a highlight for me.
It's not going to be the last time you speak about them in this podcast.
And I do want to get... I mean, you didn't talk about Mallory Knox. I thought they were
Mallory Knox were fantastic.
It was their comeback show as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I mean, I didn't want to speak about every band that I saw because this is, again, going back to the lineup this year. Although it wasn't the strongest, there were definitely bands on there that I liked, and every single band that I watched at Slam Dunk did a great job, but I didn't want to talk about every band.
This was the first time I'd seen Mallory Knox with their old frontman.
Yes.
Because the only other time I saw Mallory Knox was in 2019, just before they
broke up their final. It was their final tour, wasn't it?
Yeah, their final tour. Done, yeah. I saw him at the Horn in St Albans, but I really like that album as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, their front man was wearing a Goldberg t-shirt, so bonus points for being a wrestling fan. It felt like a real kind of homecoming gig. Yeah? All the crowd was up for it. If we're talking about vibes.
I'd erased that from my mind.
I did forget about this. There was a slight scrap behind us
during Mallory Knox. And by slight, we mean slight. We're not bigging it up.
Oh no, definitely not. So that was a bit of a vibe killer. But for the most part, just one does not equal many. You know what I mean? One isolated incident. And then finally, I do want to mention Goldfinger, even though they were on quite late. I think in terms of timings, like most of the bands that day were on time, I would say.
Yeah, I think the only issue that we had was towards the end of the day where Goldfinger were a bit late, which meant that the Interrupters started a bit late as well.
So that really ate into the Yumi at 6.
It did, yeah. I literally had to make a dash.
Well, yeah, you wanted to catch a lot more of Yumi at 6 that ended up actually happening.
I caught the key song. Like, if the girls know, you know, so...
the key song, yeah.
The key song, I didn't miss that.
But Goldfinger, considering I only know really so much about them, they were a lot of fun.
They were really fun. I wanted to see them just to say that I'd seen Superman live.
Yeah. And they did like a medley of covers, including I think they did song... I want to say they did song 2.
They did do song 2, yeah. It was just a good laugh, and it was definitely like... sort of a change of pace for the day as well.
I thought they might have had a few sound issues.
Yeah, going to the sound, I guess.
Which segue into sound quality.
Yeah, there wasn't really too much to sort of, in my opinion, write about in terms of this. The only thing that we definitely did have issues with was that the Key Club stage and the Monster Energy stage sounds kind of bled a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think you mentioned specifically when you were watching, was it Guilt Trip or Arm's Length?
It was either Guilt Trip or Arm's Length. You could still hear the main stage bleeding in, like for any pauses you can still hear.
Yeah.
But even over the top of the songs, you could at the quieter parts of the songs where they were just doing like really sort of these quiet guitar passages.
Yeah.
You could hear the roar from the main stage still.
Yeah.
And that kind of...
I mean, there's only so much that you can do.
There's only so much you can do, but I'm pretty sure that the Key Club stage was pointing in a different direction, kind of not... Because this year it was sort of...
It was kind of on the
sideways.
Corner. Yeah,
it was like sideways.
That's right.
As you were heading towards the main stage, whereas it had its back to the main stage.
It did, yeah.
In previous years. So I think it should probably go back to that, because I'm sure we didn't have many issues in regards to that in previous years.
Again, I think that because of that, the reason that they would have done that is for the space aspect of things, just to give a bit more space for the food vans that are sort of near there.
That probably might have been a compromise from.
So it was probably a little bit of a compromise, but obviously it'll be interesting to see what they do for next year as well.
Well, hopefully they're not going to be writing a massive apology letter like they did
I
here before.
I don't think they will.
I didn't see many things. They definitely rectified most of the issues.
Yeah.
From last year
Absolutely.
for this year. Packing up, there's not. We didn't really have much to pack.
No, it was literally just we had designated meeting points with the girls, so that after the interrupters, we just bombed it to Yumi at 6.
I should point out phone
we had
signal.
no issues
Phone
finding
signal was a bit.
Yeah, I think it always is.
But it always is.
So, but yeah, we didn't really have any issues getting out. There was a little bit of obviously sort of foot traffic going to the car park, but that's to be expected.
But then once we're in the car and we were driving out, it took 10, 15 minutes to get out of the car park?
Yeah, it was again going back to 23 and even 22 actually, because 22 was the first year that I drove.
23 it took at least an hour.
It took at least an hour to get out. Same with 22. Whereas this year, I think we got back to the car, I think in the vlog I said 10:15. We were home by 11 o'clock.
Yeah, it was bliss. It was really, really
and I really
efficient.
I really hope they keep that for this year.
And I don't know if that was down to them employing more stewards to steward the car park and point everyone in the right direction. Because it was a bit chaotic the year before.
Yeah. There are still some improvements that I think could work a little bit more when it comes to the car park and that general thing. It's always difficult to find your car in any car park. I think it would be so nice if there was even a little bit more signage, just to sort of have a bit of a better memory of where you're parked. There's only so much you can do when it's a pitch black field, in the middle of nowhere. But yeah, other than that, like I say, there was no issues of us getting out. There was a bit of traffic as you were going onto the main roads,
but when you have that many people all going out at the same time
in the same direction, it's to be expected.
Inevitable,
yeah. So I guess the main thing that we're sort of doing this for is we're talking about these festivals in general and our experience, and we're going to talk about mainly would we go back next year.
And I'm saying most likely. I doubt it'll be next year though. Just in terms of we've got other festivals that we're doing in the pipeline that we haven't covered before. So it's mainly monetary reasons. But I'm still very, very intrigued as to what lineup they're going to go for this year. Because unlike other festivals, I don't have a scoop. I think basically the two bands that I think will definitely play next year are A Day to Remember and Beartooth. But other than that, I don't have a clue who they're going to get for next year.
Yeah, we could cover that in another video or a podcast like this. But yeah, I think pretty much for me, even though I've been going 5 years on the bounce to this festival, it seems to be a bit of a staple at the minute for me. I think for 25, it is going to be very much dependent on the lineup. Again, at the time of recording this, I think we're a few days away from the first announcement of Slam Dunk's 25 lineup.
Oh, of course, we probably should have waited to record this after we got the first.
Well, it doesn't matter. We're here now.
But I think whoever they decide to pick, I think you're guaranteed a good day.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, of course, they've definitely improved upon the previous year. I can't speak for North, obviously, but for South, I can safely say they have 100% improved on things from the previous year. Just keep it at that. I think there's only a few minor nitpicky things really that we said along this.
But other than that, I think if the lineup is decent enough and we can afford to do it, we will be going probably next year. But like I say, it's not a definite right now because we've booked other festivals which we may talk about at the end of this podcast. And
also, I'm going to try and get some Oasis tickets on resale because I missed out on them this weekend, and Elmo very sad. So that could eat into our keep going savings.
Well, but also, we're adults. We're trying to save for a house, and I have other hobbies outside of music, which also take time and money. So
yes, you do.
So, that was Slam Dunk, and now we're going to talk about Download Festival, which happened about 2 or 3 weeks afterwards. And it was a very, very different experience for many different reasons.
Say the least. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think this was definitely our most eventful festival of the year.
That is the optimum word I would say to put.
Eventful. And obviously, we'll get into
that. Let's go category by category.
Yeah.
So, commute/parking. I think it was a masterstroke, if I say so myself, because I suggested it to stay at your parents and not him. Because, absolute breeze. It's probably the quickest I've ever got to and into download ever. And this is my 5th full one, obviously.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you know, we should definitely do that again in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, we definitely looked out with obviously being at the front of the car parking queue as well, because they opened up the other gate and we were right at the front on the path.
Well, thank God as well, in terms of what happened on Saturday, that we weren't at the front, because that made our car a lot easier
and
to
just
find.
getting out, which we're obviously going to get to.
Yeah.
But
walk to the actual campsite is still quite long, but I don't think it was as long. I mean, obviously I can only speak.
Yeah.
You know, from
it wasn't too bad
because you've only ever done did a one day of the this one.
Yeah, that's right. This was my first full camping download festival.
Whereas obviously this was my 5th full camping experience. I still think the walk is ultra long. I don't think it was as bad as previous years. Well, the weather being great.
Yeah, the weather
that
was,
day at least
God.
really did help, because you know, we made some friends in the queue.
Yeah,
and
we made
stuff.
some good friends in the
queue.
queue.
There's a long old queue, you know, to actually get in to walking into the arena, which leads us on to security/bag checks. The queues to get in anywhere were just super long all weekend, just for anything.
Yeah.
Probably because they were being quite thorough with their checks, which is fair enough, because it is the biggest rock festival in the UK.
Absolutely.
There's thousands upon thousands of people that are coming.
I mean, what was the capacity this year? Was it like 75,000?
75,000, 80,000.
It was obviously, as far as, again, we didn't go to the special 20th year, but as far as we know, it was a lot less people than the 20th anniversary festival.
Yes, but there was still loads of festival goers to go through with their checks. So, I mean, kudos to them, I guess. I mean, particularly on the Sunday, though, that was a huge queue, wasn't it, to get in?
Yeah, it definitely
and
was.
Lots of foot traffic and moving.
Yeah, I don't
very, very
I think the weather from Saturday didn't really help.
Maybe that's because they were delaying it, because of, you know, we'll obviously get onto the weather, but, you know, maybe they were delaying it until they felt it was safe for people to come in, which is fair and responsible.
It definitely was, because Saturday was just an absolute washout, especially during the night. So we don't know how much damage it really did to the arena in that time. So.
And then, I mean, really, there wasn't, you know, because we're sensible, we know what to bring and not bring into festival grounds. Like, you can't bring beer into download the arena. So we kind of got, once we got to the front, we got through the relative breeze, I would say. They're just quick check of my, you know, bum bag, and then you're in.
Yeah.
So, campsite. Neighbours, I thought, were pretty cool.
Yeah. Shout out to our camp neighbours. They were pretty sound.
Yeah, came from West Midlands, and I think they were mainly there for Shikari, really.
I think so, and I think they were also mainly there for sort of the party vibes.
Although they didn't party too hard, I could actually get some semi.
I will say it was a very respectful party.
Yes, they were very, very respectful, and they were very helpful. They lent us some drinks.
They did, and we also lent them a cable as well. There was one person in the group who clearly it was either their very first festival or they've only done it a handful of times in the past.
But we lent them one of our phone cables, and they were very grateful.
Yeah.
We also helped one of them take some of their stuff from their car.
That's true.
Because it just so happened they were actually parked quite near us.
They were, yeah. So we actually helped them on their second run on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
We helped them carry their stuff back to camp.
But they kind of just kept themselves to themselves.
They did, yeah.
It was a very isolated download camping experience.
I think that's the right way to describe it.
Which is obviously a far cry from previous years where I've generally been with a lot of other people that I know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think it didn't. I mean, a lot of our friends and sort of our music loving group, shall we say, they weren't going to download at all, if any. I think there was maybe a couple of people that went for the day, but they didn't go for the full 5 days. So
it felt different. I don't know if it was because it was my first full download since pre-lockdown. So I hadn't been for a full download camping experience for 5 years, and the campsite definitely felt different.
Yeah, for the record, we were camped in Green, so we were kind of at the top of the hill,
right next to this big tree.
Right next to the big tree. We were near the path, which was probably one of our downfalls.
That was probably a mistake.
Yeah.
I feel like next time we should really go in a bit more.
Yeah. I think we could have probably gotten away with camping
But I think by the time we got up to the camp, where we were camped, we were so tired from lugging all of our stuff. I was like, look, let's just go here.
Yeah.
Which was a rookie error, really. For someone who's been to 5 full downloads, I probably should have known better.
Yeah, but Green was just close enough to the village that it wasn't really a hindrance at night, but it was also, good, easy access there. And it wasn't too far away from the arena when it came to actually arena days.
And I've got to say as well, Signal was actually half decent for once.
It was pretty decent in the camp.
Which is unusual for download.
Yeah.
All weekend I had absolutely no issue with Signal whatsoever. Even in the campsite,
Yeah, definitely. In the campsite I was able to check the weather every day, and we was able to obviously listen to our music at camp as well for the first 2 days.
Yep.
We were just chilling at camp and
stuff.
So
yeah, campsite overall, and obviously I got to go over and hang out with some people that I vaguely knew.
Yeah.
So
yeah, see, that was the thing. Obviously, like I say, we didn't really go with a specific group. So when we set up, it was just the two of us.
No, it was literally just me and you, wasn't it? Whereas...
But we didn't have any issues getting set up at all. We had enough space, because we got there on the Wednesday and we got there pretty early. Yeah. We had no issues finding a space. I know that some people on the Friday when we were getting ready to go to the arena, there were people obviously lugging their stuff because they were only turning up on the Friday. And I think
which I've only ever done once. I only ever did it my first ever download in 2012, and I'm never doing it again.
Yeah.
Because finding space was torture. Putting up the tent in that weather was torture. And being stressed out because you're missing all the bands on that day is also torture. So yeah, never again.
Nah.
Villages. So the village, I mean, it was so much better than since I was last there in 2019. Obviously, they've had it that way for a few years, but when I went in 2019, it was virtually a swampy quagmire. The benches were had mud up to about halfway on the side. It was utterly impenetrable by the time Friday or Saturday came along.
Yeah.
Whereas this instance, it was entirely on concrete. They've moved it into a completely different place.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
I mean, as far as I'm obviously aware, they made that change after 2019. So typically, after the last time that you'd been previously, that's
where
when
it was
made the
ridiculous,
changes.
and it was just the weather was just as bad in 2019, if not worse. That is the festival that almost made me quit going to download.
Yeah, yeah. The village was absolutely great for me. Obviously, we were fairly close to it from where we were camped, so. It was good access to the doghouse, good access to those toilets, because that is one thing we should probably talk about with the campsite thing, just real quick. There was no specific portaloos or toilet areas in Green. No. So you either had to go into the village, which, when we first got set up wasn't a possibility. So I had to go all the way down to the bottom of the hill. All the way back down to the
bottom of the hill, yeah. We had, the usual download fare like the Dodgems and
we're not really rides people. We should probably point that out.
Maybe, if there's really nothing else to do and we just fancy something different, maybe we could do things like the Ferris wheel or the Dodgems.
I do. Well, the Ferris wheel was in the arena, wasn't it?
There was a ride. There was a kind of a ride, wasn't there?
There was, so they had Dodgems, they had all the shit that goes upside down that I hate. They have the fun house. Literally, I've got friends who go to regularly to theme parks and stuff, and they rate, the new rides and stuff that they have. That is not me. I freaking hate going to those sorts of things. It's the last place I ever want to go to. Disney is an exception though, because Disney have nice rides. They have the Runaway Train and stuff. But
you don't like Space Mountain?
I've done that before, but you don't see the loop. That's my sort of psychological thing.
Yeah.
My psychological thing is that you don't see the loop. You feel it, but you don't see it. So it's I don't know. We can get onto that another time, but. One thing I would like to sort of point out about the village is obviously the co-op is just such a nice luxury to have. I mean, obviously the prices are pretty, steep, but you're at a festival.
Well,
so...
I thought the co-op stuff wasn't as bad as
we did. To be fair, we did also have a co-op membership, so it did make our meal deals and stuff a little bit cheaper.
The queuing for it was a little bit torturous.
Yeah, it was very zigzaggy.
I mean, they brought out the two lads decked out in co-op gear who were trying to get everyone to form a band.
Yeah, and Serena, who's one of our friends' mates, who's also a YouTuber.
Oh, she was well up for just.
Yeah, she was well up for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the co-op is such a nice luxury to have. Obviously, it's not at the medium to small size festivals. The only other time I've used a co-op at a festivals was my very first one, which was Leeds Festival.
Yeah.
And they had a co-op there, and we used to buy, well, that's where we pre-booked our drinks and stuff. That wasn't an option for download.
It's not the first time they've had a co-op. They had it in 2019.
Yeah,
and,
I was going to say, download have had it for years.
2018,
so
they've had it for a few years.
yeah.
And it's always good when you're running low on stuff. You know, I was tempted to get more cans because we drank the well dry.
Yeah, we certainly
pretty
did.
much by the Thursday.
But
in terms of non-music things, they also had the comedy tent, which
we didn't really utilise
that much. And they had the doghouse, obviously.
Yeah. But
Which
the Doghouse had a few bands on the Wednesday, which we saw. They had other things like sort of post-arena days, but as we'll get onto in a bit.
we'll go through the Doghouse in a bit.
Yeah,
actually. I just realised there's another category.
Yeah, exactly. So.
But yeah, food/toilet/hygiene. I'm going to tread carefully with this one.
Yeah, because there was certainly a few
because
issues
no
from
doubt,
other people.
Yeah, no doubt by now you would have seen some of the reports emerging from Download about mass food poisoning. That stall, which I do not want to mention, I was tempted to go to. And
it was quite early on in the festival.
It was quite early on in the festival, and you were like, no, save it till Sunday. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. I'll save it till Sunday. By the time Sunday rolls around, mass food poisoning outbreak at Download. You know, and obviously we're fans of other vloggers. We knew about TPD and we knew about...
Yeah, we heard about their predicaments.
So my heart goes out to them for that. Aside from that, I enjoyed the food there. Mm-hmm. You know what? I actually thought the noodle place that we had on like the second night.
Yes. When we got like the spring rolls.
Yeah, spring rolls.
That was really
that was
nice.
super efficient and super quick and actually relatively cheap for how much
it was really good, yeah, and that was in the village.
Yeah. It seemed to recall I got a really nice like pad thai.
Yeah,
just before
that was
Shikari.
Shikari, yeah.
That's why
I
we were
got
queuing for bunny chow, yeah.
Because bunny chow is optimal festival food. Like, if you want something for a decent festival price that's going to keep you full, bunny chow.
Bunny chow.
Bunny chow.
And also, there's obviously there's vegan and vegetarian.
Yes, there are. Well. Yeah, they cater for all sort of dietary requirements.
There was I had some Japanese kind of thing. You know, when we were at the top and we were watching Blackstone Cherry.
Yes.
Some Japanese cuisine, which was really
yeah,
nice.
that was near second, wasn't it?
And then whilst we were watching Sum 41, I had the rotisserie chicken.
Yes.
Which is bloody messy.
Finger food.
But overall, you know, you get good food. I just feel I feel desperately sorry for the stall that did have to close.
Yeah.
Particularly, it was actually one of my favourite stalls.
Yeah, we were low-key gutted, but we understand why.
Yeah, and, you know, Bloodstock obviously didn't renew them for this year as a result of that.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to be back
in the game.
It's going to be a while before they get, you know, they're trustworthy again.
But yeah, the food, you know...
My heart goes out to them. It could have been just a simple mistake, you know.
Yeah.
And it just contaminated everything. But
yeah.
That's something I think they probably should have prepared for a bit more. You know, food hygiene and safety is paramount at a festival where the weather is horrendous and it's hard to keep items at a good temperature.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, aside from the food, the toilets were not too bad, I would say, for Download standards. They were. I mean, some of them were to be expected later on in the day. Particularly like when we was coming back from the arena. Going through the village toilets were horrific towards the end of the day.
Although I've got to say, toilets for me, and that includes the Portaloos, not actually as horrendous as I was expecting by the Sunday.
No, they were fine.
I think 2016 was a lot. I saw things in 2016 that make your back teeth hurt. Honestly, like, horrible time there. I mean, there was the standard queuing, you know, for toilets and stuff that you expect. But you know, I think I'm at the point now with festivals where I can time things quite well. So, weather.
Yeah, so let's address the elephant in the room.
Let's address the massive wet elephant in the room.
Very typically, you know, the last two downloads from, you know, what we've seen in other vlogs, the weather was great for the last two downloads.
And then I come along and it ruins everything because that just so happens to... I'm a jinx. I'm just a massive jinx. 2018 was the only good download weather-wise I've ever been to. 2012, 2016, 2019 and this one were horrendous in different ways. I still think 2016, as I mentioned at the end of my download vlog, was the worst.
Yeah,
the absolute
I can't really
worst
speak for that
in terms of weather. We just could not get dry, and it was horrible.
Yeah. Saturday was definitely the worst day in terms of the weather.
Well, it's like you can
Because-
see what happened in our vlog, but basically it was decent on the Wednesday. As soon as Thursday came along, it was a lottery of weather.
Yeah.
Whether it would piss it down or be quite sunny. I mean, Saturday in the arena, first off, we had Baby Metal getting rained off, which you were
I was not happy about
gutted
that.
about, really.
I mean, Saturday they were running behind as well on the second. If you remember when we saw Harriet,
With Harriet, yeah.
they had to cut their set short. Bleed from Within had to then cut their set short. There was a lot of issues on second stage, and I don't know whether weather was the full factor, but it was a factor.
It didn't really let up that. I mean, it let up in spurts, didn't it?
Yeah,
really?
there was definitely periods where it was,
At its best was probably during Shikari, where the sun actually started shining on us.
Yeah,
that made me enjoy Shikari.
Yeah, we'll get to Shikari because that's definitely one of my highlights.
But then, of course, with I mean, yeah, the Wednesday was all right. Like I said,
yeah, Wednesday was fine.
Thursday
was okay.
it was really rainy on the Thursday.
Was it? I don't.
Well, that was the Dear Download Me Up.
Oh
wasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, that was
really
wet
wet that day.
Yeah, that's true.
And then just from then,
yeah, it was just really on and off
and horrible. And
I remember the Friday being pretty bad in the morning because we were queuing for merch.
But the thing was, I knew I go to Download every year expecting the weather. Every year I go anyway, expecting the weather to be horrible.
And we were almost prepared for.
But I just clearly wasn't prepared enough for that. What happened on the Saturday evening, which was
obviously if you've seen the vlog, you know. But if anyone hasn't seen that part of the vlog, somehow on the Saturday, unfortunately, we had our tent flooded pretty much. We'd come back from the arena and the front door had sort of come off a little bit from the ground. And again, this is going back to sort of
it wasn't
era.
just the rain, I don't think, it was the winds.
Yeah, it was very windy.
They had really high-speed winds, which I think is why Baby Metal had to go off, because there was high-speed winds with these giant, like, pieces of, like, PA in the rigging above them, which could have probably fallen off and squashed one of them.
Yeah, it really was horrific on Saturday.
But, like, that was a combination of the wind and rain, I reckon, that knocked the thing over. And then I thought we were coping with it okay when we came back.
Yeah, it seemed to be fine, and then the rain started coming down again at around 1 a.m.
And there literally drip, drop of this leak on our sleeping bag. And I was like, no, this is ridiculous. Because I felt my feet getting colder and colder and colder, and I was thinking, no, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I said to Laura, can you pop out and try and get some tarpaulin?
Yeah, because I was going to the toilet anyway, so I went to the loo, and it was already raining when I left the camp.
Yeah.
And by the time I'd got to the Portaloos, Rob had rang me whilst I was sat in
a panic,
the Portaloo.
which is what you didn't see in the vlog.
Yeah, you didn't see that, but, this is true story here. So, Rob had rang me, and I just got into my Portaloo, and Rob was like, yeah, this is ridiculous, we need to leave. And he was really panicked.
And I'm not soft, you know what I mean? Like I said, I've been through 2012, 2016 and 2019 weather-wise, and they've all been absolutely horrendous. But this was the absolute straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Yeah.
I've never experienced anything like this at a festival, and I never want to again.
Yeah,
where
it was horrific.
literally there was water coming through the ceiling of our sleeping quarters. And that's what did it for me.
It really did dampen us a little bit, because also, if you remember that night, we were potentially going to go and watch Bowling for Soup in the doghouse, and we didn't end up going.
We didn't end up going in the end, because by the time we tried to get to sleep, it was like two. It
was about 2
o'clock. We came back from the arena, and it was like 2 o'clock when we decided to head off to our car. Took us about 2 hours to get.
Well, actually, no, it wasn't 2 o'clock when we decided to head off. It was about 2:30, 2:45 where we started packing up our stuff.
It was a lot. Well, put it this way: it was a very, very long journey.
And it really made, like, obviously it takes a lot of stamina to get through.
We'll get into that a bit later,
thing.
but yeah, weather-wise, and then just the Sunday when we somehow managed to get back in there. The mud was absolutely horrendous.
I mean, I hope no one skipped leg day, because my God, you had to have some leg power to get through.
We'll get into that again. But weather, it's just download weather, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just either I'm a jinx, or that's just download in a nutshell. Weather-wise,
I was at the point when we were going back to the car on the Saturday/Sunday morning. At that point, I was contemplating being like, do we just go?
Do we just go?
Back to my mum and dad's.
And again, I want to reiterate, it's like, weather it does affect you. You can be the most seasoned festival veteran, and if the weather is that bad, it can still really put
Yeah.
make your life a misery because you can't dry anything.
Yeah.
You know.
It was definitely the music that got us through
And
that.
and our clothes on the commute back the day after from your
Yeah,
parents.
my
Oh
car,
my God,
absolute.
it stank.
My car stank.
Awful. Speaking of clothes, we're
Yes.
going to merch.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I'm
Yeah.
good at these segues,
All the segues.
aren't I? Expensive, of course, but the mega store was, I thought, a really interesting little
Yeah.
gaff. Glad we could take beers into the village for the queue for that, to be honest, because it was.
Yeah, I think the
Really
Mega
good.
Store is definitely one of the best things that they've got going at Download. There's lots of really unique items in there. Like
There really is.
you know, we've got a poster from like Download that we still need to frame and put up.
You saw our little montage on the vlog.
Yeah, there's so much that
They
you
have
can
dog
get there.
treats. They have,
Like if every festival had a Mega Store like that, they would be making money off of me. My days.
Oh yeah, and it was really busy. Trust me, I imagine they made a killing off of that.
Yeah,
merch.
it was really good.
Merch in the arena, however, absolutely insane.
On the first day it was kind of crazy.
Queue wise, absolutely insane. We literally missed pretty much 2 whole sets.
Yeah, we were going to go and see, we wanted to see Those Damn Crows, and to be fair, we had a bit of a gap after that. But
We could kind of still hear them from up the hill. But,
yeah, it wasn't the greatest.
But like Mouth Culture, I wouldn't minded catching again just because they were, we saw them supporting Teenage Wrist.
Yeah, we heard them whilst we was in the queue.
But we heard them whilst we were in, this merch queue was right outside the Dogtooth stage.
Yeah.
But we were in the merch queue, weather was fine, and we were in the merch. Oh, God, I mean, again, it was 2 whole sets. So I would hazard to say we queued for pretty much an hour.
Yeah,
in
definitely.
That queue. It was utterly ludicrous. And then then the heavens opened up whilst we're in the queue.
Yeah, thank God for ponchos.
Got to the front. They didn't even have any Fear Factory merch.
Yeah, you were kind of low key looking for that. I was maybe gonna get a Make Them Suffer shirt. But I decided against it, and instead we bought our dog.
We bought the dog.
We bought DD.
Yeah, we've
Download
named him DD.
Yeah, he now sits on our TV stand as a constant memory of Download.
Of that, and he's still a bit muddy, isn't he?
He is still a little bit muddy on his jacket and paws, but
yeah, that was a great that made that actually did make the whole day go a lot better having him.
Yeah,
you know.
Honestly, I am a massive kid, guys. Like
She's a big kid who loves her plushies.
Kid.
You know?
I love plushies. Like I have so many Pokemon plushies in the flat. I'm like this close. I really need to buy a new shelf just for my plushies. But yeah, like I say, the merch was really good.
Again,
no complaints about that.
I would probably, if I was to recommend something, don't buy too much merch at Download because it's like I think it was 70, 80 quid for a Queens of the Stone Age hoodie.
Yeah. I definitely make sure you've saved some money for it.
Make sure you save some money. Make sure you're tactical with the queues as well. Festival goers / people / overall vibes. I love meeting the Dear Download crew.
That was like a highlight of the Thursday
fun
for sure.
That was the definitive highlight of the Thursday. Being in that tent with Simon Bond and SMTV Stu and Chiz Vids.
The Dippy Donutters.
Dippy Donutters were there. And just having a laugh and just having a catch up. It was fantastic.
Time.
It was actually kind of what I needed, really, because I knew about the impending doom in terms of the weather. And I was just getting a bit kind of, down the dumps about it. But as soon as I met up with the Dear Download lot, which obviously we'd arranged beforehand, before going to the festival, it was, that was so much fun. Shout out Dear Download, by the way. This is, they're a big reason why we're doing this podcast right now.
Yeah, amongst other people, obviously.
And I would like to take them up on their offer to guest star.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. It'd be great.
Later on, if it's all right with you lads, obviously, Adam and Simon.
Yes.
Three's a crowd, obviously. Four's probably an even bigger crowd. And then we met up with some others. The 2 Bens.
Yes, shout out to
Mr. Wilmot, shout out to him. Used to run Camp Lona.
Yep.
And Mr. Lewis Donaldson, who it was really fun watching Limp Bizkit with him and trading wrestling jargon and
absolutely
watching some Floyd one. He knows his stuff. He's a good guy.
We saw your mate Sean very briefly outside.
Very
the co-op.
briefly, yeah. He's a kind of a regular. This year though, shout out to Alan actually as well. He told me the grossest download story. And I'm still not going to repeat it here.
No,
it's just so
absolutely
awful. So we saw a couple of people that I recognised. It was definitely more of a kind of stick to ourselves, just me and you.
It definitely was, yeah.
In general, Download it can be a mixed bag in terms of the types of people it attracts. I definitely saw more than one fight happening. The first one was right in front of me in the rotisserie chicken queue. A bloke in a bloody white captain's outfit.
Oh yeah, there was like a queue pusher.
And then a guy who basically kind of like cut his missus cut in front of him, so he called him out on it quite rightly because that was a long queue.
Yeah.
And he turned around and was like, "Don't lay your hands on me," and they just scrapped with each other.
So but we will say that that was on the last day.
Where
At this point, everyone's probably really pissed off.
Well, I can put that down to the stress of the weather and mud, but it's still no excuse. You know?
Yeah.
It just don't ruin the vibe of everyone else. You know, everyone's having a great time. And then there was a bit of a domestic during Avenged Sevenfold.
Yeah, that was like just before we were heading off.
Just before we were heading off. Again, probably just the stress of the
whole festival.
The whole festival trying to navigate through.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. We probably had our fair share of like little pity fights over the weekend.
Yeah, but not
to that extent. No, but like there was definitely a stress in the air because of the weather.
But I always get stressed before. Until my tent's set up, I am always stressed about everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I was obviously particularly stressed on Saturday evening. But, you know, that's not a slight on any of the people at all. It's like, I don't know, you get you get a mixed bag at download in terms
but
of the
you
crowd,
definitely have your loyal
there is definitely more people
downloaders.
that are better people than your bad eggs. You know?
Yeah.
So we move on to the arena.
We've kind of already spoken.
We've kind of spoken a little bit about it, but I think it could do with some. I know you can only do so much with the weather because it's an act of God, and you know you can't control it. But the state of Sunday, in terms of the mud, it was taking the piss. It was borderline treacherous to navigate through.
It was really difficult.
You know, we were all right because we're quite able-bodied, you know, and we quite, you know. But I dread to think what people from Access or
I mean, Access customers only had so much like pathage from download, if that makes sense. Like,
and they had one little board, didn't they?
Yeah,
that was leading.
So when there's people in like mobility scooters or wheelchairs, it's really difficult for them to like not. Well, they have to stick to the path, but...
And I don't know if they should just come up, like, put more boards down or something.
I mean, when you look at, like, the state of Grasspop, for example, there was a lot more wood chip down. I mean, there was a little bit of download, but it still didn't really salvage the other bits of the ground. I know that the Avalanche tent also had flooding issues, just due to where they are.
Well, due to that, but also due to the amount of people that went in the Avalanche tent for busted.
Yeah.
They really did a number on that tent.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, surely the organisers must know that the weather is going to be appalling.
Yeah. It was really, really bad this year. Like I say, the Sunday was just horrific. We did obviously...
We had to take chairs into the arena. I've never, ever taken a chair into the arena before.
Yeah. I think the main reason that we did that, for the record, was obviously because of the poor sleep that we had on the Saturday.
Yeah, the appalling sleep we had.
Yeah, I mean, you saw in the vlog, we ended up obviously sleeping in the car. Yeah. We didn't really rest very well going into the Sunday, and we knew that the conditions were going to be really bad. So, you know, it took a lot of, like, you know, strength and stamina to actually even walk through.
And that is one thing you need to have when you're at Download. It's sad. It's a sad truth, really, considering how good some of the other festivals we're going to cover are. But like, you really do need to have a good will, a good backbone, a good, you know, drive to see, you know, to push through and see. So when the weather is like this, and you shouldn't really feel like that. You know, I'm over it now.
Yeah, obviously we've had a long time to think about this.
You know, really dwelling on it, it's like I would much rather it be convenient for everyone, you know, than have to just kind of suffer with having to push through.
Yeah.
Like that. We've taken a while to dwell on it. You know, it's like that. This is one of the things that is going to force me to stop going if it carries on like this.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the things which we'll cover at the end of this section, obviously, about whether we're going to go back to Download, but
in terms of like the stage layout, just a quick thing with the arena, it's like you have your food stalls in the middle, which I think is probably the best way to go about it. you know, the stages are very, very far apart from each other, which is both a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
The curse, if being weather like this and the mud being up to your knees,
Yeah.
you can't really walk that fast.
You have to be. Well, we had to be.
There were
really
people slipping and
strategical.
sliding all over the place on the Sunday, you know.
Yeah, luckily we didn't really have any
And
sort of falls in the mud.
And I don't blame people. There were so many chairs on the top of the hill on the Sunday
and
that people were trying to go past.
Hands up to us because we were one of those people.
We
sat
were one
on
of those
the hill,
people.
but we
But
weren't
we were
in the
at
way,
the very
like.
top of... It's like, I can agree with people taking chairs if they're at the very top of the hill. If you're in the area where everyone's trying to stand up and watch the bands at the bottom, then that's not...
Yeah,
that's not one.
Yeah. We like I say, we took our chairs because we were absolutely pooped by the final day.
Yes.
And as someone who I obviously drove us back that night, and then, you know, thankfully we got some good rest that night.
We really did, yeah.
But yeah, let's talk about some of the band highlights from Download, I guess. For me, I mean, obviously there was 3 arena days, but I think the Saturday, even though the weather was horrific, I think the Saturday actually had most of the bands that I was really looking forward to.
I would say, definitely the Saturday for me was the best day of music.
Yeah, I mean, Baby Metal, albeit, you know, they were cut short, was still really, really good from what we got, but I kind of wish that we got a full set. But
we'll see him. We'll see him again someday.
Yeah, but
they're a bit cursed at Download. That's because this happened in 2016 as well.
Yeah,
got rained off.
But Shikari were definitely one of my highlights because they really picked up my spirits after being dampened by the Baby Metal set being cut.
Shikari were fantastic.
The weather also came out for them. Make Them Suffer on the Friday. I can't believe I missed them out in the vlog when we were talking about it in the car. I was clearly too focused on driving.
To be fair, I missed out on Sum 41 as well in the car.
Yeah.
They were definitely one of my highlights.
Yeah, there was just... The thing is, and you've made note of this, you know, you're always going to get the premium acts at Download. Although the costs always continue to creep up every year, you are going to get quality at Download.
Well, I never thought in my wildest dreams I would ever see Pantera play.
Yeah.
You know
and that was one of your highlights.
And that was one of my absolute highlights, along with Machine Head. Queens of the Stone Age, it was brilliant to see them. And my heart goes out to Josh Homme at the moment, who's... I mean,
he's suffering a
bit at the moment, so get well soon.
They've had to cancel
their whole tour.
Bunch of tours.
Hope he pulls through, you know.
But yeah, I guess my other 2 shout outs I want to give real quick. Vukovi. Again, I didn't mention them in sort of my summary in the car, I don't believe. But Vukovi are one of my favourite bands of the last 10 years, I would say. I've seen Vukovi now 6 times, I believe. And they always put on a great show. One day I will meet Janine. I've still not met Janine yet.
And she'll give you a Buckfast bucket hat.
I wanted a Buckfast bucket hat. But yeah, I've met Hamish a couple of times, but I've never met Janine. So
but it wasn't the best. We'll get on to sound quality, but it wasn't the best use.
Yeah, I think Avalanche had a few issues. They had a few issues.
I want to shout out Defects personally on Dogtooth.
I didn't see them.
I think they are a brilliant British metalcore act, and they're definitely going places.
Yeah.
Frank Carter, I mean, what a guy. He's just so charismatic. He brought a little kid up on stage.
Yeah, that was really cute.
There was a toddler or something, wasn't it?
It was. I think this little lad was only about 3 at most.
Yeah, and he was really sad.
Yeah, so Frank spotted him, got him over.
Being the dad that he is, obviously. Yeah. Holding Absence, who we kind of take for granted, really.
Yeah.
But they're always brilliant.
We've seen Holding Absence so many times since post-COVID times.
And we've met them as well.
We've met them before as well.
At HMV in-store signing, which was brilliant in Nottingham. I first met Lucas when I was really drunk at Heavy Music Awards, and I came up to him and was like, "Oh, dude, your debut album is so good." So I've kind of made a bit of a tit out of myself then. But they're really, really good lads, and I wish them all the success in the world, and they absolutely deserve it. Pantera, just fantastic, fulfilled a years and years long ambition of mine. You know, I never thought this would ever happen. It happened. I got to see absolute bangers. I got to see one of my favourite songs of all time, which is Floods, with my favourite guitar solo of all time. Just brilliant.
Creeper for me were one of my highlights of Sunday. They just gave me that energy that I needed to get through the rest of the day. Especially with obviously what happened on the Saturday. And then that led me into having a pretty decent Sunday before we went home.
Late night stuff. The Doghouse was fun for the first evening because I was very drunk.
Rob was.
I was
Indeed.
drinking all day and I was completely hammered by the time we got there,
Yeah.
as you'll see in the vlog. Although I wasn't drunk enough not to know that the music definitely got infinitely worse as the night went
Yeah,
on.
I wasn't a big fan of all the DJs they had. As I say, we were camped quite close enough that we could hear the doghouse, like not massively loud, but loud enough to be like.
It turns into a
noticing
proper
it.
kind of rave club.
Yeah, and it's
EDM
not
night,
our
and
vibe.
it's not our vibe at all. And
Yeah.
I was getting particularly pissed off on the night where our tent was leaking.
Yeah.
As you could probably hear in the vlog.
Yeah, definitely.
With it
Yeah.
blasting out.
But
all
yeah,
over
we
the
were at the doghouse a couple of times over the weekend, but not every night. You know, when we're in the arena for full days.
Doghouse, I would say, is kind of like a one and done thing, really.
Yeah, like we were there for some bands on the Wednesday.
In terms of other stuff, they had the yoga, didn't they? The rock fit
Yeah,
thing.
that was like during the morning.
During
I
the
ain't
morning.
getting up to do that.
Yeah, so sleep. It's some of the worst nights of sleep I think I've ever had at a festival, especially on the Saturday, of course. But that's just part of the course for Download, I think. I think next time, if we do decide to go again, let's not get a spot as close to the doghouse.
Yeah, I think for me personally, like the first night of sleep was fine. But when the temperature really started to drop, it was freezing.
Oh my god, I was shivering, wasn't I?
Yeah, Rob was literally shaking in his sleeping bag on like the first or second night because it was that cold.
It was so cold. Yeah.
And that's why we bought a blanket for 2,000 trees.
Yes.
But yeah, it was absolutely Baltic. Like, it was so cold. In terms of leaving the festival, we left just before Avenged Sevenfold finished, and we weren't the only people doing this.
Luckily, the car park was actually semi-okay.
It was okay. I was a little bit anxious driving.
You were very, very anxious.
Yeah.
You did not want me to film anything.
I did not. I just wanted to. No, I just wanted to concentrate on getting out in the car because when we were leaving, when we were walking back to our car, there were people getting towed by 4x4s already.
Yeah,
on like the
there was
top
like loads
bit of
of
North.
tractors and stuff with like cables attached to the front bumpers.
And then
of
there
cars.
was just like people just driving like absolute
Arseholes.
nutters.
Yeah.
Like you don't go that fast when it's muddy and wet conditions.
Having said that, though, I think we timed it very well.
We did,
We went basically just before Avenged did their encore.
Yeah, we started to leave just before that. That's right. So we were still hearing them in the distance when we
And
were
I'd already
walking
got
away.
at that point. We'd already got Nightmare. Or some of it.
Yeah.
We got Little Piece of Heaven.
We got all the songs that we
got
wanted.
Backcountry, all the Avenged Sevenfold songs you want. So I took that as an opportunity to go. Even Unholy Confessions they played before the encore.
Yes.
Which I thought was a weird choice.
Yeah.
And then I think their encore just consisted of 3 songs from A Life Is But a Dream.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, there you go. That's
there's
the
our
opportunity to get out of it.
So yeah, it was quite muddy in the car park. So I just wanted to.
It's the first time I've
concentrate.
ever left a full download on the Sunday evening.
But
And
it
I'm
was
tempted
so
to do it,
good.
But I'm tempted to do it again.
And then we got back to my mum and dad's, and we both slept for about 10 hours.
Like a baby.
It was so nice, and then we had showers and all that. But you've seen that in the vlog.
You've seen that in the vlog.
So the key question: are we going to go back to Download? I think if I want to start, I think next year it's probably not going to be a full camping Download. I think because next year we've got quite a bit on already, as we've already mentioned. Depending on the lineup, we may go for a day ticket next year if we get
You're
sort of bands.
You're convinced Green Day.
I'm convinced Green Day are there next year.
And if Green Day are there next year, we are definitely going for the day.
Yeah, and if we do go for the day, we can obviously, get sort of a taxi thanks to my dad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think I would like to do it in full again at some point, but not next year. I think if we was to do it in full again, I think I would prefer if we had a proper group.
Agreed.
Again, we've already covered this way
That's not
back.
a slight on the guys we were camping with. It's just like...
it's just when you've got friends there, it's a different vibe.
Well, particularly when it's an emergency, like
Yeah.
the Saturday evening, and it was literally just us two having to sort out our tent by ourselves.
Yeah.
I always said, if this one didn't go well, it might be my last one. It was a pretty mixed bag for the most part, but it's getting more and more extortionate every single year. And I'm not going to lie, the lineup is slowly getting worse for me. I think they're gravitating a little bit further away from metal. I think they're definitely picking some great undercard metal bands like Defects and Urn, Make Them Suffer. But at the same time, it's regressing.
Yeah,
a
in
bit.
other areas.
And it's not giving the opportunities to, I think, the right bands for me personally.
Yeah.
So the lineup is going to have to be absolutely brilliant for me to consider doing a full one again. If I'm being honest. Yeah, I agree with you. From now on, I want to camp with lots of mates if I do ever come back.
I think definitely a closing point in general is that next year I don't think you'll see us there for the full weekend.
No. It's a really hard one because Download is very close to my heart, and I've been going on and off since 2012, and it is still the place that, you know, it's the sort of mecca of the rock and metal world in terms of festivals. At this stage, I'm in a very much love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
Like, almost a toxic relationship with it, really. You know, so who knows? If, you know, if the lineup is really, really tempting, then I'll probably go back. Okay, lastly, 2000 Trees.
And spoiler alert, this is probably our favourite festival we've done this summer.
Absolutely. 100%. What a festival. Oh my God, right. We're just going to go through criteria by criteria again. Commute/parking, no issues.
Yeah, literally, it's one the phrase that you'll hear the ragamuffins saying, we're probably going to nab it at some point. Easy treesy.
Easy treesy.
That is like the best way to describe this festival because we had no issues with the commute.
Even with picking up Joe in the car.
Yeah, we picked up our friend from Cheltenham Spa.
And got there a bit later than usual because his train was late.
Yeah.
Even with that, we still got a brilliant spot near the front.
We still got there, you know, decent spot in the car park.
The walk to the campsite and to the, you know, that area is quite hilly.
Yeah, that's probably the only sort of strenuous part is the hill.
Yeah.
Especially when you're lugging your stuff. Like, I had to help Joe pull his car, and it was very heavy. Yeah. Like, it had obviously all of his stuff. Because the thing is that Joe did all of his stuff in one trip.
Also, Joe wasn't doing too well at that point.
Yeah, Joe was a little bit unwell, so we gave him a hand with that.
Yeah, which I don't mind, obviously.
Yeah, but yeah, other than that, easy treesy.
Easy treesy. Security. Probably some of the best security I think there's ever been at a festival, really.
Yeah, honestly, like, the security at Trees, I think they get the same security sort of company every year. And it's always top notch. Like, we had no issues getting in. And I'll be honest, like, for anyone who has like sort of anxiety about going to festivals or anything like that, I think this security company always make you sort of feel like you're safe no matter what.
100%.
The staff at Trees are just top notch.
Shout out to Mitzi in the bar by the way, who I had a long conversation with after getting my drink about my Deftones patch and stuff. Like, honestly, everyone there is just so vibey, so friendly. It's brilliant. Security treated everyone very well. They made sure we had lots of water during sets. Always caught the crowd surfers by hook or by crook. Some even got into the spirit of things themselves, you know.
Yeah, honestly, like the security are fans themselves of some of the bands that are playing as well. So
and crucially for me, no issue whatsoever grabbing any mementos I might have wanted, like set lists or plectrums. They were perfectly happy to oblige.
Yeah,
you know. And of course, they allowed the artists to get out into the crowd. Some security are very.
They are a little bit, especially at bigger festivals.
But
like
they had no issue letting artists, you know. Press club climbing the bloody tent, you know. Right, campsite, brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a really fantastic group.
Are we biased at all, Bev? I
don't know. I can't tell. But yeah, our camp, as we say, for a little bit of background for anyone who obviously doesn't know us personally, we met a lot of our camp over the COVID times.
Yes, during the lockdown period, we were in a Discord group with a bunch of fellow metalheads and rock people who we met via Twitch, I guess.
Yeah, and we essentially would hang out every Saturday. That's when this particular Twitch stream would be on, shout out bees. And we would always sit in a Discord call together, drinking till like 3 a.m.
Yeah, long hours, because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah, during lockdown, there was nothing to do. So we just, you know, after obviously that period of time went away, we obviously continued to stay in touch with these people. And now we're really good friends with a lot of these people, and they're spread all across the UK. And oftentimes, obviously, in terms of seeing them in person, you know, festivals and gigs are pretty much our only time that we do see them in person. So a big group of ours got us onto 2000 Trees in 2022.
I think it was Joe, really, that mentioned
it was Joe,
it was.
yeah.
So
shout out to Joe.
Absolute shout out to Joe for pressing the issue.
Yeah. So we went to our very first 2000 trees in 2022.
And we loved it then.
We absolutely loved it then, and we knew we wanted to go back at some point.
I think we didn't go in 2023 probably because of just money issues.
Well, it wasn't just that. It was also the fact that we saw Blur the same weekend.
Oh, there you go. We saw Blur that weekend.
Yeah, and
there
that
was no
ticket
way
was spenny.
Yeah, there was no way I was missing Blur.
Massive shout out to our camp, you know.
They're just the nicest people.
Yeah, and they really sort of added to the overall vibes of the weekend, and we knew that that was going to be the case because this isn't the first time either of us have camped with these guys. So they're really good friends of ours, and long may that continue.
Yeah, and also obviously right at the top of the hill, fantastic view. We had nearby loos, toilet facilities, water points.
Yeah.
Literally just across from us, and it didn't smell or anything.
No, we didn't have any issues with that. It was, I mean, the queues were long in the morning.
Even though we're at the very top of the hill with a nice scenic view of the rolling foothills and stuff of the Cotswolds, still only took a few minutes to get to the bottom of the hill into the arena.
Yeah.
Like literally just an absolute breeze compared to download, you know. Just, you could leave whenever you wanted. You could go back. That's the crucial thing, right? Into the arena, and you can go back.
Yeah.
Just on a whim to get to have a rest or to drink more.
Yeah.
Or to, you know.
It's just so flexible.
But you could also take drinks into the arena. Which is, I mean,
it's one of the pluses.
How many festivals can claim to do that? You know.
I mean, we'll get onto that sort of aspect later because
including my very stale, cling filmed beer, which was horrible.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later when we talk about
literally the only slight, possibly of the whole festival, right? Overall, but certainly the only slight at the campsite. Signal was awful. Yeah, for me anyway. No signal whatsoever.
Don't expect to be receiving. I mean, actually, to be fair, I could get signal like first thing in the morning at the Portaloos. The signal was pretty atrocious, but you know, we're out in the middle of nowhere.
We're right in the middle of nowhere, and the campsite is so small that if you're trying to meet up with mates, you'll probably just end up bumping into them anyway.
Yeah, that was the thing. I was also trying to get in touch with one of my Pokemon friends. Shout out Jamie, who you would have seen in the vlog.
You would have seen just after People.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really good friends, and you know, we play Pokemon together and stuff like that. And yeah, I was trying to get in touch with him because he was, you know, going to trees for the first time, and we wanted to arrange a meet up. And we ended up bumping into him before People started. So
there you go.
It's definitely a festival where you can get away with not having signal.
You'll be able to meet up with literally anyone. Like, be it bands or friends. It's just, everyone's just so close.
It's a very, like, wholesome community vibe at trees.
But we'll get into that, obviously.
Yeah.
Village non-music things, there wasn't really a village per se. It was kind of like a campsite and an arena. Yeah. And there wasn't really anything in between.
Yeah, I mean, they've obviously got, like, stuff that we don't partake in.
On the fringes of the campsite, you had, like, the comedy tent, I suppose.
Yeah, they also, again, going back to sort of the family-friendly thing, they have a lot of stuff on in the word tent for kids.
That's right, yeah.
They have, like, kids' entertainment, they have face painting,
podcasts.
They have podcasts. We don't really partake in any of that. I know that a few of our members of the group went to the live podcast for 2 promoters, 1 pod.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, next time we go, which, spoiler alert, it is next year.
Yeah, spoilers.
We could, you know, if there's any bands that are not on... I mean, obviously I like to go to festivals and really check out as many bands as I can. But if there's really nothing else on, then you have plenty of other stuff to do.
I mean, also, one unique thing that they did this year because of the Euros is that they did show the football on the Wednesday.
Did, yes.
That was really, really cool.
That was fun, even though we only got a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Dream State was showing the Netherlands.
They were showing the game as Dream State were playing, yeah.
Silent Disco, probably the best silent disco you could hope to go to.
Yeah, it's absolutely like one of my highlights of 2000 Trees. Like, we call it our party day.
Yeah, it's so much fun. You like, until you're there, you can't really describe why it's so much fun. But it's just because everyone's there for the same reason, to get legless and to listen to
it's just a lot of fun.
Good tunes, and they have a very wide array of tunes that they play for their silent disco, and you can bring them up all the way to your tent and still
you can still hear them from your tent. So you can have prees at your tent if you don't want to carry all your beer. So yeah, one other thing that they did have as well, which we didn't partake in, is a mini golf.
That's right.
They have the mini golf right near where they had also this Marshall workshop this year, because Marshall were sort of like one of the main sponsors for the main stage. And yeah, they have all sorts of stuff like that. And like I say, they have dedicated kids areas.
I would have really liked to have partook in the Marshall Workshop, because you got to design like your own T-shirt.
Yeah, you got to do like your own
with,
T-shirt.
with a band.
Yeah. Maybe next year
so cool.
we should totally
That's
take
so
advantage of that.
unbelievably cool. And then you had the real ale bars next to the Marshall shop, which was fantastic.
So yeah, in summary,
there's a
lot of things to do at Trees,
yes.
which is obviously, again, it's one of the highlights that they make when it comes to bringing your family.
Food / toilet / hygiene. It's some of the best food and drink I think I've ever had at a festival.
Yeah.
My God, the Amy Swinehouse hot dog is like the best thing ever.
Yeah, that is like one of the best bits of food that you'll have. Obviously, they had bunny chow there as well. Yeah. So
this is why I'll never probably go vegan or vegetarian. No offense, but if I could have that every day for the rest of my life, I probably would.
Yeah, it's pretty top tier.
And then, brilliant pad thai. You had a great sausage roll.
I had some banging fish and chips on the Friday as well.
I should mention as well, no queues at all.
Yeah, I mean,
I think really the only queues there were for the bars, and even then,
they were pretty brisk. And yeah, there's just a great variety of food there.
Huge variety, including obviously. They cater to people, like
all dietary requirements. There's always something there for you.
And it's still fairly pricey, but again, it's one of those festivals that I'm actually happy to pay more than the odds for it, because it's a festival that is independently run. They need the money to put this on every year.
Yeah, and
I'm very happy to
and that obviously goes back to the point that we made earlier in regards to the drinks into the arena. So basically, they let you take your own drinks from camp into the arena. They don't really police it, but they also tell you, we're letting you do this, but if you could, buy a couple of pints at the bar.
Heroes by Beeros.
Heroes by Beeros is the motto. And yeah, we certainly did that over
And it doesn't feel like a guilt trip either. It feels like you're doing it for the right reasons.
Because they're treating you like proper
adults. Because they're treating you like adults.
Yeah. So even though we do take in our own lagers
How about
and stuff,
that? You treat people like they're actual human beings and adults, then you get, you get reciprocated.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the Women's Institute cake stall in the merch
Oh my
tent.
God, I didn't even... Yeah, that was so nice.
That was so funny. It was these little old ladies in aprons with like they were at some sort of...
like a farmer's market
locals
or
farmer's
something.
market or fair.
Oh my God, yeah, like the old
these,
school like school fairs we used to have as kids.
With all these like Don Broco t-shirts and... metal shirts hanging around.
But hey, people were buying them every day.
All these goths coming in, so these old ladies going, "Hello, do you want some cakes?" It's brilliant.
They were selling out these cakes every day.
I bet they were.
Yeah, honestly.
Weather, can't complain. It was really, really nice.
A
little bit overcast on some days, but
we did catch the sun. I caught.
It was raining a tiny bit on Saturday, but obviously that was a pittance compared to what happened at downward.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, we're British. We could talk about the weather all the time, but yeah, the trees weather was pretty fine.
It was fine. It was absolutely fine, and it was particularly nice when you're in the forest. And it was nice and sunny.
Absolutely,
it was great. Merch, I just would have loved to have been able to afford more. To be honest,
yeah, the merch is absolutely top tier.
Yeah. Just so many unique items that we saw or we picked up, like
your football shirt is probably one of the most unique things.
It was great. The queue for the football shirt was very long though. I ended up missing a fair bit of Cosmic Psychos as a result, but I still ended up getting one, and it's for a great cause.
Yeah, because part of it goes to Safe Gigs for Women.
Safe Gigs for Women, and I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, you're always just spoilt for choice with the merch at Trees,
And you get to pick up like really kind of underground like vinyl and things like that.
Yeah,
you can obviously afford to put vinyl and CDs and stuff within your hold or to take back to your car with you.
Yeah, we only bought CDs to be fair.
They have like such unique vinyls from like Big Scary Monsters, like really small record labels.
Yeah,
and you don't get that. You don't get that at many festivals.
No, but yeah, as I say, you're always spoilt for choice with Trees. This year I didn't really have like a proper pool of money just for merch. It was kind of just like a general pot of money for the whole weekend. Otherwise I'd have gotten way more.
Well, you did get a line-up t-shirt, didn't you?
Yeah, I got the line-up shirt, I got a Creeper CD, I got the Hot Milk exclusive long sleeve for Trees, so I definitely got, enough, but it always feels like you're kind of letting your other bands down.
And the thing about trees as well. They always seem to go for a different aesthetic every year when it comes
Yeah.
to their shirts. Like this year was like octopus.
It was like an
theme.
octopus thing, and then the year that the first time we went, it was like a phoenix.
That's right, yeah.
It's very cool.
It's really, really cool. Okay then, so festival goers, don't think you could find a more amiable, up for it, amazing set of festival folk. Everyone's there to enjoy the vibes. They're incredibly respectful to everyone else.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much else to say, really.
Yeah, it's like one of the best festivals that you can go to have a good time with complete strangers.
Yes, that's
Like
the main
our
thing.
camp neighbours are just. We didn't even have any issues with our camp neighbours,
No,
actually.
none whatsoever.
Yeah.
And you could just end up just talking to some like I ended up just chatting to some complete strangers in the queue for the football shirt, and we were chatting as if we'd known each other for like 10 years.
Yeah, it's really good for that sort of stuff. And obviously, when we were waiting for Teenage Wrist as well, we were chatting to someone at Barrier who was a massive Creeper fan. They were just camping out at Axiom waiting for Creeper. So we were just talking to them about Teenage Wrist, and they were talking to us about Creeper. It's just always wholesome vibes. I don't think we had one issue this year with anybody.
Not really. I mean,
Like in 22, we have a story to tell for that.
oh yes.
In
But,
tw-
well, we'll probably get into that down the line someday.
yeah, we'll bring it up at some point.
Yeah, the arena, completely stress-free to navigate. Especially the hop from the Axiom to the cave is just like the easiest hop from
Yeah,
between two
literally.
stages ever, and they don't overlap either. So
No.
you're not going to get the sound pollution.
Yeah, it's like one of not the highlights, but it's like sort of a funny tradition that continues every time that we go. We always start our day with the cave Axiom jump, as we call it, because all the bands that we want to see most of the time first thing are on those stages. So
yeah, it's still pretty consistent to this day. I think there wasn't too many bands I saw on the main stage compared to like the cave or the Axiom.
yeah, I mean, we'll get onto the bands and stuff next, but yeah, I think most of the bands that we wanted to see were on the smaller stages per se.
Yeah. But the hop from, it's literally not even
It's like 10
minute.
steps.
It's like, and then Forest Stage continues to be an amazing, unique selling point for this festival. The campsite acoustic sets remain a fantastic tradition that I hope continues.
Yeah, I know that some people weren't too impressed with Frank Turner and how much of a crowd he brought in.
Yeah, that was a bit of a botch, I think, on their part, putting
Yeah.
it in the main path.
We had to basically walk around to get back on the last day. We basically had to like walk around away from the path and pretty much into other people's camps. Like,
Which is fine for us, but I guess if you've accessibility needs or something, that's a bit...
It's a little bit of a pain.
Bit of a pain.
But yeah, like...
To be honest, right, it's like, a small price to pay, I think, for able-bodied people, when you have something that cool happening within your campsite. I just cannot fathom how cool an idea it is to have a band that you love or an artist you love play a set almost exclusively in your front room.
Yeah,
it feels like,
it's
doesn't
pretty
it?
insane.
It's basically is your front room. It's
Yeah,
right next
for
to
a
your
lot of
sleeping
people.
quarters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
we
crazy.
saw Pet Needs do that, and that was bloody brilliant.
That was cool. But yeah, like in terms of the sort of layout of the arena, it just feels like you're never going to miss anything.
Nope.
Like, especially early in the day when we spoke about the sort of cave Axiom jump, even though that they are one after the other, you don't miss anything, like, at all.
You do kind of have to be strategic for later sets, though.
Yeah, definitely. Like, for Creeper, I think I can't remember who I sacrificed.
Lonely the Brave.
That's it. I sort of left their set early, and that paid off because a friend of ours was already at the Barrier for Creeper.
But the more festivals you go to, the more you kind of account for things like this.
Yeah.
Palm Reader, obviously, I really wanted to get in the tent because I feel like it'd be packed, which it kind of was, but not as much as I thought it would.
No, I think it definitely...
Maybe because they were clashing with Bob Villain.
Yeah, it definitely grew as the set went on because we were kind of like tucked away on the right side of stage. And as the set progressed, it definitely felt like there was a lot more people in the tent. And yeah, Palm Reader was one that I couldn't miss as well, for sure. It did sort of feed into my hot milk time, which again was a sacrifice that I was willing to take because it was Palm Reader's final ever show. And as much as I love hot milk, I was never going to see Palm Reader ever again.
Well, yeah, there you go. And
So-
they were a definitive highlight.
Yeah.
And speaking of highlights, we'll come to bands. There was just far too many, I think.
Yeah, this
name.
lineup was absolutely stacked.
If you want to hear my band highlights or see our band highlights, just watch our vlog
Yeah,
in 2002.
every single band absolutely killed it. So if we don't mention your favourite band, we apologise.
Honestly, the only band I can recall being late or having to swap round was Cherrim.
Yeah, and that wasn't even down to their own accord.
And we were all very well informed as to which bands had to drop out because they had a signboard, saying which bands had to drop out. One huge tech issue during Guilt Trip, which was unfortunate. Something just got unplugged, but still, they got to finish their set and they finished early.
Yeah.
So it's like...
That's what you get for playing melodic hardcore.
There you
right?
go. Made up for it in spades, And I want to say there was like a few swaps as well, a few late additions. No, Guilt Trip was a late addition.
Guilt Trip was a late addition before we even got to the festival.
And I thought, how many instances are there where the band that has come in to deputise for another band that's had to drop out been any good?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's honestly brilliant.
Yeah.
Every band I saw that weekend were brilliant.
Yeah. And
there were just some that were just a bit more brilliant than others.
Yeah, it's honestly like I've tried to list like a sort of a top 3. I've gone out like more into a top 10, like, and I could have even gone even more, because as we sort of mentioned at the end of our vlog, there was just so many brilliant sets to pick from. If I'm going to sort of do a rapid fire sort of quick dash of names, Creeper for obvious reasons, Nobro, Cherim, Unpeople, Palm Reader, Don Broco, Press Club, Teenage Wrist, as I say, there's just so
Angel
many
Dust,
to name.
Like Grove Street, I thought were phenomenal. Cold Years was great seeing him do the Forest. My Goffy Boys, Zetra.
Split Chain.
Pizza Tramp were bloody hilarious as well. That is the funniest band I think I've ever seen at a festival. So yeah, just overall fantastic.
Yeah, I really hope that like next year's lineup is just as stacked. But
well, they haven't, get onto that. As of this recording, they haven't released any.
No, and they're probably not.
I don't know if they're going to until like
maybe next month or the month after.
And I couldn't tell you who they're going to choose next year, but I really want Turnstile to headline.
I would love Turnstile back at 2000 Trees, but we'll get onto that in another video.
Probably in another video.
So yeah, in terms of like the sound quality and stuff, we didn't really.
I can't think of any issues.
No, I think there was probably certain points like where like early on into sets bands were quieter than they should be, but it is what it is when you're doing live mixing and stuff.
Yeah, of course. I would have liked to have hung around others' campsites more, like late at night and.
Yeah, that's true. We had our friend Meg who wasn't camped too far away from us actually.
Yeah, I know a lot were really cool to hang out. I hung out with them a little bit when I went back to the arena briefly.
Yeah. And
they're a really cool group.
And obviously, as I said already, we had my friend Jamie there with his missus, and it was her first ever festival. Yeah. And I remember on the day that we were leaving. I spoke to her and I was like, so how did you find the whole thing being your first festival? And she absolutely loved it. So if that's not more of an accreditation, then,
Yeah, absolutely. Did get told off by stewards.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Which we didn't include in the
vlog. Basically, because of where we were camped.
I blame me for that, to be fair. I was very drunk, very loud.
Yeah, where we were camped, we were fairly close to the family camping, which has a noise curfew. And we had our speaker in the group.
We had our speaker out loud. I was hammered, and I was singing quite loud. And
so the stewards came round and
told us to turn it down.
We were all chill. We had a bit of. But
to
be fair, we had a bit of banter with them. Yeah. Well, Joe did, and
Jeff definitely
had a bit of banter.
Jeff was just like, "Oh no, come and hang out with us." I'm like, well, shut up. But they were chill. They were so chill.
They were cool, and we didn't have any issues with
another big prop to the security team is that they could have easily been not dickheads. That's probably
they could have really been a bit harsh.
Pressed the issue and been quite harsh.
They could have even confiscated. No, they could have just confiscated.
Exactly,
the
but they didn't. They're just like, look, come on, it's family camp over there, but kind of chill.
And for in terms of timeline, this was kind of
I'd like to take this opportunity to say sorry to the family camp. If you were in family camp and you were kept awake by my rowdiness, I do apologise for that.
But yeah, it was at this point in the night as well in the vlog where I think Joe put on Price Tag and you didn't really appreciate that. And I still want to bring up the point that you don't like Price Tag. It's an absolute bop.
I just don't like pop music, really.
Hey, some pop music's alright.
Modern pop music, right?
I'd say
with a few exceptions, I'm just not a fan of.
Dua Lipa.
Yeah, I like Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
I like
I think Charlie XCX is great. I think Billie Eilish is great.
Yeah, Billie Eilish, I don't mind. Sleep quality, absolutely fine for me for the first 3 days because I was off my face.
Yeah, to be fair, you had like, you know, a lot to drink on the first night. And then the second night when we'd come back from the arena, we had a bit of a nightcap before Pet Needs.
Their acoustic set, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like, that was fine, but not great for the last evening because I wasn't drinking. And that wasn't down to the festival whatsoever. It wasn't down to the volume or anything. It's just I couldn't sleep.
It happens. I mean, for me, I had absolutely no issues in my little cocoon.
You were cocooned up.
I was very cocooned up. I showed my mum the clip of the vlog where I'm all cocooned up and I've got my beanie on, I've got my hoodie.
I'm a beautiful butterfly.
But I will say for next year, I am investing in like a proper expensive Udi. Specifically, I'm going to get a Pokemon one.
Of course you are.
They're like 60 odd quid, but they are. Oh, I'm so excited to get one for next festival season.
I don't know. I tend to just I just stick with my sleeping bag and our mattress really.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got to say our new tent held up very well.
It did, yeah. That old Halford's tent.
The old Halford's tent.
Yeah.
Memes.
Oh,
the old Halford, shout out me to Mel. The old Halford's tent you know, it had a blacked out area, so there wasn't any staring in and out or any people walking by.
And we didn't get woken up in the morning by beaming sunlight.
No.
It was still a bit warm when we were getting ready, but that's to be expected because you're in a tent. So
there you go. So yeah, packing up. Speaking of tents and stuff.
Yes.
Packing up, we had lots of help packing up from our lot, so that wasn't an issue at all.
Yeah, we helped them obviously.
And the weather was absolutely amazing on the last day.
It was absolutely beaming. You'll have seen it in the vlog. It was quite warm.
I kind of wish that it was like that for some of the past, like the day before, but it can't, you know, beggars can't be choosers in that instance, I suppose. Commute back was a little bit stressful.
You can blame the sat-nav for this one.
Well, you can blame the sat-nav for we got slightly lost on the narrow country roads before dropping Joe off, which you wouldn't have seen in the vlog.
Yeah, basically what happened is normally when we come out of the 2000 Trees car park, we normally go left, but there was already lots of queuing traffic, so my sat-nav told us to go right. So I went right, followed the road, and then there was a road closed, and I was like, oh, I can just go here, and then Rob didn't really appreciate that.
No, I knew that we were going to go down the arse.
So I followed Rob's instructions, and we went pretty much round the asses to get next door. We did end up back on the main road after about 15 minutes of driving through narrow roads.
Yeah. But luckily Joe's train wasn't. You know.
No, we always leave him plenty of time for Joe. Joe always says that he'd rather get there stupidly early than be quite, you know, fine margins of
for
being
time,
late.
yeah.
And obviously that gave us the opportunity to obviously drop him off in good time. We both, you both went to Tesco to get some sort of snacks.
We did, yeah. But the most stressful part, obviously, was finally getting signal and finding out that because England were playing Spain in the European Championship final, that Teenage Wrist, who we were seeing that night, had to move their set.
Yeah, obviously that's not on the festival.
That's not on the festival at all. It's just, it made the commute back a lot more stressful than I thought it was.
It was, yeah. So a normal circumstance, we would have come home and I would have put my first load of washing on.
Had a
shower and all that. Couldn't really do that. What I ended up doing was driving back to your folks. I had a power nap because I was absolutely
You did have a shower.
I did, yeah, but I had a power nap first.
Yeah.
I had my power nap, then I had a shower that woke me up a little bit more.
We had to drop our tent off at my parents' house and it's still there.
Yeah, we need to pick it up at some point because we aired it out at your parents'.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So,
but
are we going back to 2000 Trees, I wonder?
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you watch till the end of the vlog, you'll already know the answer to this question.
And to be honest, I think we're probably going to keep going back.
Yeah, I think...
If we can afford it, obviously.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, well, I mean, we've already got our ticket for next year. We're very excited to go back. I think regardless of the lineup, 2000 Trees is just a fantastic festival for the ultimate vibes, the ease of access for everything.
This is starting to sound like we're shilling it.
It really does.
We're employed, but I can promise you we're not employed by 2000 Trees.
Yeah,
it's just that good that we would highly recommend it every time. And I didn't get I said this at the end of the 2000 Trees vlog. I didn't get post-festival blues after download because of, you know, how much of a mixed bag it was. But I think in retrospect, I definitely got a little bit of post-festival blues post 2000 Trees.
I absolutely did as well. Like going back to work after Trees was not fun.
No, it wasn't. So, I mean, in summary, I guess, I think, you know, Slam Dunk was fun.
Yeah.
And they definitely improved upon things from the previous year.
So
shout out to them.
Yeah, if anyone was sort of put off by going this year,
they've rectified a lot of stuff.
They definitely rectified it. So let's hope for 25, if the lineup's for you and you want to go back. I've got my fingers crossed for you.
Download, the music was fantastic, right? Not taking anything away from the music because it's always fantastic. Yeah. I think they need to sort a few things out.
Yeah.
In order to coax me to come back.
Mm-hmm. And 2,000 Trees.
And 2,000 Trees is just amazing, and we love it.
Yes. So, again, talking about sort of next festival season, which we've kind of already been doing throughout this podcast. We are going to be going to 2,000 Trees next year, for definite. We are going to be going to Bloodstock. We bought our tickets after the reaction. We weren't lying.
No.
So, we are going to go back to Canton Park.
I am so excited for that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be biblical.
Yeah. And then, in terms of if we do a third festival next year, I'm honestly not sure. We're kind of just going to play it by ear, I think.
Like you said, we could do one, if you are right and Green Day headline down there, we're going to have to go for the one day.
We will have to go for the one day for that.
I mean, I would have ideally liked to check out Outbreak at some point. I really want to check out Burn It Down Festival.
Yeah, there's a lot of festivals that we've not ever been to, period, in the UK. We've got a lot of other things that we've got our eye on, so just keep an eye out for our video content as it comes.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that about wraps it up for today. Thanks to anyone who's listened. If you could give us sort of any feedback on, audio quality and, the actual content itself and what topics you'd like us to discuss.
But I hope you enjoyed the post-festival retrospective episode of the Alt Pulse podcast.
Yeah.
And then it just leaves me to say that I'm Rob.
I'm Laura.
And we'll see you down the line somewhere.